So I ordered a couple cables from Zuzu Cables around 2 months ago in March. Although I already have coiled cables that I bought from Tez Cables, I was looking for cables to match some keyboards that I have coming in the future. Coiled cables are not necessary for a keyboard to work, but it is a nice accessory that you can buy to complete the look. Like everything else in the hobby, coiled cables can be quite expensive and tend to cost around $60 to $80, though it really depends on what features you decide to add onto your cable. There are definitely cheaper options available, but you do want to make sure that the cable comes from a legit vendor, so always be cautious and search a bit online and on Reddit to make sure it's not a scam. The cables that I bought this time were a Mizu themed cable for my Ikki68 Aurora Mizu edition, and a Striker themed cable that I plan to pair with my Satisfaction 75 that I got in the navy colorway. I don't know much about coiled cables, but to my untrained eye, these cables are really high quality. The coils are tight and straight and the tech flex looks really good. The aviator connector has a bit of resistance when you put it together, and the fastener turns very smoothly. Zuzu Cables also includes a cable bite for every cable you order. They don't do anything functionally, but they're pretty cute and just sit on top of your cable if you want extra customization. Putting on these cable bites was a tougher process than I thought it would be. These cable bites will fit on your coiled cables, but they seem to be designed for thinner ones. So in order to put these on, you really have to stretch the bottom seam out. I don't own too many coiled cables, but I thought it'd be interesting to compare the ones I got from Zuzu Cables with the one I'd gotten previously from Tez Cables. It's not the most fair comparison because I've been using the cable from Tez Cables for some time now, but here's some footage showing them side by side. The Tez cable is pretty nice, but the coil is definitely looser and isn't as straight compared to the one from Zuzu Cables. You might say that this is simply due to the fact that I've been using the Tez cable one for longer, and while this might be true to some extent, the cables were already kinda like this when I got them. While the cables from Zuzu Cables are much nicer in quality, one thing to keep in mind is that there's a pretty big price difference between the two cables. The cables from Zuzu Cables cost $72.50 per cable, while the one from Tez Cables only costs $34.99. This means that there's a price difference of $37.51. This is a decent amount of money, and it means that you can buy 2 cables from Tez Cables with the price of 1 cable from Zuzu Cables. It's up to you to decide whether the higher quality of Zuzu Cables is worth spending that much more on a cable. I personally really like the cables from Zuzu Cables, but even I would be hesitant to say that it's worth it considering the fact that I can get pretty good cables from Tez Cables at such a cheap price. But for those of you who have the money and want to get a nice handmade custom coiled cable, I think Zuzu Cables is a nice vendor that provides plenty of color options at a decent price.